Okay, so if you're new, go ahead and grab your remote and have your thumb on the play button, but don't press it yet because we are going to do that together at the same time on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so just because you said Jane Lynch, I'm very excited. It looks like we're gonna probably get some more Sophie story going on here.
The music is like menacing.
This is so awesome.
I love that it picked up pretty much right where we left off.
I have a feeling he liked it. Something about it he liked.
Told ya. That's what I think. Susie's eyes.
I can't remember. Has he ever seen Susie before? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, I don't think that he has.
Yeah.
I think maybe, didn't Rose see her at some point? I know her best friend did at the house or the apartment. I love her reaction here.
I love that. That's funny.
Not friends, right?
They are truly very excited to see her. And do you guys remember the days of walkie-talkies? I mean, they were never that big, you know, in our time, but I definitely remember using them like at amusement parks and stuff.
And he's still shirtless.
I worked at an antique mall that was fairly large, and I was a key person. I carried big rings of keys, and we had walkie-talkies. when somebody won it in a case. It's pretty comical.
That's funny.
That was my first job. I did that for a couple years. It was fun.
he's being such a child. This that actress is so I love her even more now from this show. I already loved her from Succession, but now, I mean,
Poor Abe.
You're right, John.
Love the Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer references. And them being like 19-year-olds. That's funny to think about
I know, right?
their career.
But when I think of Arnold Palmer, I just think of the drink, the Arnold Palmer.
Oh yeah, the tea and lemonade drink.
Just tea and lemonade. Yeah, I guess, did Arnold Palmer like drinking that?
Didn't he create it?
I don't know.
I can't believe that he would be the inventor of mixing your tea and your lemonade.
Yeah, he
Somebody
often requested that drink, you know, that beverage combination when he would go out to restaurants. That's how it got the name.
That's very cool.
That made
Susie,
me laugh.
just
Awesome scene.
Susie, just like the buzzkill.
Yeah, way to drop to like, squash all their hopes and dreams, Susie. It's funny.
I love a couple of the actresses who are in that scene too. They're like, one of them was on Broadway for a while and Jeremy Hansen. The other is a comedian I actually follow on Instagram. Like that was really cool, the casting there. Love
Oh, that's awesome. What's the name of the comedian, if you don't mind sharing?
Addie Weinrich, I want to say is her last name. She's a comedian that I found following like through Kevin T. Porter and Demi Dejui Babe. Like they're friends with her.
His type, cute and quiet.
It definitely, cute describes Midge, but definitely not.
I was gonna say.
And knows how to read.
Oh, I'm so happy for him. He's so excited about this too. Forgive me if this was mentioned during a previous episode, but how far are the Catskills from the city? Is it like a couple of hours, maybe?
It's a couple of hours on a good day. It's like maybe two hours depending on the traffic.
I'd imagine Catskills are kind of like New York's version of Santa Barbara. I mean, just in terms of length and just one of the places that people in LA get away to.
guess that was pretty cutting edge technology at that time.
That was real though. That's the project that Bell Labs did, was they created the first like talking synthesis like from a computer. So that's all real.
Oh no.
Abe probably thinks he's in trouble.
I love this scene.
Great.
Poor Abe.
I know, all these family secrets coming out in 1 week.
That scene was amazing.
The song. You only hurt the ones you love.
So now he's discovered two things about both of his kids.
So awesome.
He should be super proud that he's raised two kids that are super amazing, you know?
I think ultimately he's going to be. It's just, I think it's less about. It's just more he just feels like the odd man out, and that doesn't feel good. I wish that I had watched any meteor showers like this, you know, with like a person guiding you through the meteor shower. I feel like every meteor shower I've like watched, it's like half of them, like they go by, I miss them. They're just like, everyone's just like trying to see if they see anything. And this is nice.
Well, I have a really good time watching meteor showers from heaven because I have lots of field to just spot them.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
They
Yeah.
have different spots of the sky, so that's how I am too. Like I have to be looking in the right direction. When
But I just like that they kind of make it like a little audience. Everybody's sitting there, and then you've got like the guy with the microphone, and all right, everyone, take a look. Here they come.
We actually have classes like that when we expect meteor showers here in this area. There's a group that does them. It's not in Raleigh, but it's right outside of Raleigh. And y'all should look and see if maybe in your area there might be, you know, some type of group that coordinates something similar. But I agree, it was really cute seeing them all sitting there together. Oh, he's looking for Rose. I find it interesting that he goes to her with the news about Noah, but doesn't want her to know about Midge yet. Like he's like, he can't wait to tell her. Oh, go ahead.
I was thinking the same thing. Well, maybe because the project he's working on sounds a little bit more. That's a cooler thing to be, or maybe he just thinks that's not as detrimental to their family prestige or whatever.
Yeah, I want to talk about the difference between how he reacts to each of them in the post show, because I think that there are some interesting differences. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Rose is brilliant. I'm guessing that Noah is an analyst.
But sometimes he comes back with sand in his shoes. What's happening?
That's funny. That is true. I mean, this show has gotten really interesting here. Yeah, the filmmaking in this series is just so great.
What is the song? Go you chicken fat go.
Yeah, it's "Go You Chicken Fat Go," but just like a choral version of it. You know, it's like "Go you chicken fat, go you chicken fat, go you chicken fat, go."
I guess I'm not familiar with that song.
You don't know "Go You Chicken Fat Go"?
I don't know. What is it? Where is it?
It's like it's an old song. It's like an old. I want to say it's like an old like. It's like an old like fun maybe camp song. I don't know. Like I don't know where.
When we first heard it, it was sung by Robert Preston, so I'm thinking it's from a musical.
Oh yeah, I bet it is from a musical. Yeah, it has a kind of a musical-y type vibe
Is it
to
not
it.
from
Yeah, I
Music
don't know
Man?
musicals.
I love how they dress Moisha and Shirley because they always look kind of chaotic together. So good.
You know what? "Go You Chicken Fat Go" is the it's the chorus of the song that we also heard from him earlier, the one that starts off with "Touchdown
Right.
every morning."
And I just looked it up. It was commissioned as part of the President's Council on Physical Fitness.
Yeah, it was used, and now I remember. I used to hear it in physical education class. They would turn it on as like a little record, and we would all do our like jumping jacks and all that stuff to it.
Hilarious.
And it was in the music.
Lamplighters. My parents, I think, met at a bar called the Lamplighter.
Anybody else getting a working on building Stars Hollow vibe?
Oh yeah, a little, yeah.
Yeah. I like how they're incorporating all of the different outfits from the country. It's so fun.
Abe is being so childish in this episode.
It's Chester.
This is the same song Miss Patty sings in her show.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, this is called the Coffee Song by the Andrews Sisters. And also there's a version by Frank Sinatra.
Susie.
Maybe
Alex can dance.
maybe that's Miss Patty.
It might have been Miss Patty. Good call, Sean.
Very Kellerman's and Dirty Dancing again.
Oh, Oh, Abe. Oh. Oof, that was a great episode. That was a fantastic episode.
It was right
This
here.
is one of my favorite B-52 songs.
It is a fun song. Right there at the end, when he says, "I guess it's time for us to dance with someone else," do you think that might be symbolism for like how he views their relationship moving forward? Because they just go off their separate ways, and then she goes to dance with Benjamin. Was he dancing with the girl that he had been talking
Yeah,
to?
he danced with the one that he met at the bar.
And she'd been dancing with presumably her father or an older gentleman, not a love interest.
Yeah, it certainly seemed that was what was being implied there, was that they were that maybe it was time for them to kind of quit the whatever it is they've been kind of doing for the past season or so, which is like, are we together? Are we not? What's going on here? Bit of pining over each other. And that like, it seems as though this sort of Steiner resort like was an opportunity for both of them to open up to the idea that they really can go their separate ways.
But that longing look that he gave when during the meteor shower scene, when he saw Midge and Benjamin on the blanket together and laughing and enjoying each other's company, I think that was sort of indicative of his still. It almost made it seem like the whole reason he went up there was to try to get her back, or maybe, like you just said, to truly confirm that that's what was happening.
Yeah.
And also they're about to head back into the city to quote unquote their real lives, and it's the end of the summer and all that sort of symbolizes in terms of endings and beginnings and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean this episode, I mean all of this stuff here kind of goes against this theory that I was having, that a big part of this series is going to be about how these two can kind of find each other again on different terms. And it seems as though that's not really what's in store for the characters. At least it doesn't feel like it anymore. And that instead, what we've kind of gotten here out of these last 2 seasons is sort of the messiness of a breakup like this, and how difficult it is really to, regardless of the circumstances, that how hard it is to actually like sever ties. They still haven't gotten officially divorced. They'd still need to do that in order for it to really be fully official, but I could see that happening now. I still don't think that Benjamin is, I still don't think that he's going to last long on the show. I might be saying that mostly from the bias of him feeling very much like a seasonal, like a season cast member, like somebody who's brought in for a season. He doesn't feel like a really like a part of the show, but that could change too.
Isn't that what you thought of Brian on Gilmore Girls though?
Yeah, I guess, but Brian, I don't know if I'd say Brian. Well, I guess Zach did kind of become a much deeper part of it. Yeah, maybe he will become like we would refer to a character like Brian, or at least Zach as well, until maybe like the 7th season. We would refer to that as like a heavily recurring cast member. And maybe Benjamin, I could see Benjamin growing into a heavily recurring cast member. So he would feel like part of the ensemble, even if he wasn't really like a real deep part of the cast, like Abe or Rose, or even the parents, even the Maisels, the parents of Joel, they feel like a deeper cast member. Yeah, but I did love this episode a lot.
I just wanted to say that the Astrid storyline was actually pretty accurate also. She was fasting for a minor Jewish holiday called Tisha B'Av, which usually occurs between July and August. And so she being a converted Jew herself, is taking all the Jewish stuff and to the utmost degree of seriousness, and really taking on all the responsibilities of being a Jew. So she fasts for everything. So she, nobody else is fasting except Astrid. And the Tisha B'Av holiday commemorates all the various tragedies that befell the Jewish people throughout all of history, like from the destruction of, particularly the destruction of the 2 temples in 586 BC and 70 CE.
I love the fact that nobody even knew about it really, and she even had to correct Rose in which direction to turn the pages in at Shoal.
Yeah, because again, it turns into she's a converted Jew, so she knows everything.
Nancy and Curry, is that something that Jews typically observe and practice today?
Orthodox Jewry.
And I would say to an extent conservative and Reconstructionist, and probably Reform does it in some form as well. Yeah. But I would say the more on the spectrum of more devout, it's not something that. The other thing is it's in the summer, so I don't know, unless you go to a Jewish camp, and when you're growing up, you might not even
know about it.
Right, because if you're Hebrew school, like a lot of kids is, September through June, it's one of those things that it just happens to fall during that month.
Yeah, so like usually in Hebrew, like what you said about Hebrew school, usually in Hebrew school we learn about the things that are happening then and now. You know, we'll learn about Rosh Hashanah during Rosh Hashanah time. You know, that's what we'll typically run our lessons on. So, you know, we'll kind of skew our lessons because the Jewish calendar is so different than the American calendar. Sometimes lessons kind of get moved. Like one year it might be in September that you'll learn Rosh Hashanah, 1 year it might be October.
To give you a frame of reference, Hanukkah is concerned with the destruction of the second temple. So this holiday, I'm just giggling at when Astrid said, what did she say? There's really fucking important temples or something like that. Like, because everybody was just totally minimizing it. And indeed, you know, gorging themselves on brunch when she was fasting.
Well, I mean, it is, I think the point that she's a converted Jew is really important here because, you know, all of these things being taught to children versus all of these things being taught to an adult they're gonna have a different
appreciation.
Exactly, right? Like children are gonna probably remember all of the stuff that is sort of important to children, you know, and an adult is like thinking about, you know, this is something that I'm doing for the person that I'm going to be spending the rest of my life with. I want to make sure that, you know, I get it all right. I want to be able to be accepted by his family, right? There, it comes with so much more that children just don't care about, you know? So it makes total sense. It also just like works so well with her character. She may be one of my favorite, if not my favorite character on the show right now. I just find her so fascinating. Love her performance. Yeah, man, Astrid, I hope that we get to see more of her.
I also love that outburst because she's like hangry, like she's hungry, and so she's
yes.
And it's funny because we don't expect her to be irritated because she's always like trying to defer to the family and like be a good wife in that way, you know, that she's entered this culture, you know, and she's always trying to like be deferential. So it's really funny that she explodes because she's like actually just really hungry too.
The stuff with Noah was just so fun and so unexpected. You know, it also sort of gave me a little bit of perspective on, we know that Noah doesn't want children, that he's not really all that into it. And you know, she does, he doesn't. I'm wondering if that also, there's some of that is, you know, coming from the fact that whatever it is he's doing doesn't, you know, he just doesn't really align well with the idea of having a family.
But she knows about it too.
Yeah, but she doesn't know the extent of it. I mean,
yeah.
he comes back with sand in his shoes and he has a gun sometimes. I mean, you know, she may know that he's working for the CIA. She may think that he's working as an analyst, and it's very possible that he's like, you know, full on spy movie and he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna
cute.
Yeah, right.
In that time of the world. Cute.
Right, exactly. You know, so
he's on the
beach
in Miami, like that's what's happening. Like he comes back with
no one would know about that better than John.
Right, I know. Yeah, it's true. I just think it's very possible. Not to say that he like wouldn't, you know, if she did get pregnant, but that just, you know, there's just maybe a part of him that just is a bit apathetic to it because, or maybe even just uncomfortable with the idea, just because he's thinking like, you know, I don't want to be a father. I don't want to be a father or I don't want a child of mine to lose their father like out in the field because, you know, I get killed or captured by a foreign adversary, and like now I'm in I'm in a jail and my in another country, and like my child's got to deal with that, so that might be part of it. It's just incredibly fascinating, and very serious, actually. One of the things that I just love about the show in general is that they do a really great job. They're doing such a great job of like making light of things that were kind of a serious deal at that time. That the more you think about the idea that Noah could be, a real, like, legit spy who could potentially get killed in the field, that could potentially be, imprisoned for espionage by a foreign country, like, the more like kind of serious the show gets, and yet like the presentation of it is so whimsical and fun. That whole scene inside Bell Labs just like tickled me, like all of those people walking into the room, just it's so cool. The writing is just awesome.
Yeah, they were
just
walking
awesome.
into that room and being buzzed in each time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this was a Dan episode. It also felt like Dan's really great with that. I think like he, like taking really serious stuff and just tweaking it with just weird, wackiness. But like even that scene with like Abe, like that we were kind of laughing about the go you chicken fat go, like that was a beautiful moment of melancholy and defeat, just beautifully shot, beautifully presented, with this like choral version of the same song that we were introduced on that dock there with Abe at that time of the morning, just really beautiful filmmaking.
He is so good at using music to refer to other scenes or other parts of the show, and using it as a portal to sort of tie everything together. I just love that about the way he crafts things. I also think that the large scale of the search for Susie, it was also sort of a Danielism or a Palladinoism, yes. Like that huge involving everybody, and even informing the guests, even going so far as to inform the guests, and everybody was like, oh, what a relief, and I thought that was really, I think that one of his patterns is to sort of really go big and global, and for something that is so, in other treatments might be a little bit more minor.
And I think also the whimsiness of the whole, yes, you can be serious, but yes, you can also have fun in your seriousness.
Yeah.
And we should talk about the reaction of Abe to Noah versus Midge, and like the surprise that he's getting. I do love that scene of him on the dock with the song, because I feel like now, knowing that song was like part of the president's physical fitness test, it kind of feels like, that was introduced to create like some sort of like standard of living in our society, and I feel like that's kind of what Abe is going for, is that everything's going to be great with his family, and everybody's going to do what they're supposed to do. And then he finds out that like his daughter is doing stand-up comedy, which is totally not in the plan. And his son is in the CIA, which is like 100% not the plan, so I kind of feel like there's something kind of poetic about that song being used too, for his moment of reflection, and like his, sort of, I don't know, just sort of his standard of living, like, I'm going to be fit, I'm going to be, awesome, and I have a great family, and like, I don't know, I just think that's a really poetic moment. But I also think it's interesting that he reacts so differently to Noah versus Midge, because like, not only are the stakes really high because it's like the CIA, but I think the stakes are really high when it's your son who is going into, like, in this time, like, it's his son who has an alternative lifestyle, which is not, you know, like, actually, like, has a lot of implications for his family in a way that he didn't expect. Whereas when it's his daughter, like, she could get married to someone else in his mind and, like, be, like, fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I also think that a big part of it, a very big part of it, is the respect that he has for what they're doing, right? So I think that I don't think that he has a great deal of respect for what Midge is doing, even though he can understand that what she's doing, that he can understand that she is a pretty good at it, you know. I just don't know if he feels like, okay, so she's good at comedy, like, you know, what's the big deal there? So the fact that she's hiding it from him makes him a little bit angrier, whereas Noah, his secret is something that I can't, you know, that Abe kind of has to respect, because it's essentially, you know, linked to kind of what he does. It's this like government thing. But in that context, it actually makes Abe much more embarrassed about himself. It makes him much more insecure about himself. So one of the things that you kind of noted, at least I noticed with Abe, is he seems more angry like a father towards Midge, and towards Noah, it almost makes him revert to a child, and suddenly he's much more embarrassed, and he's doing things that are just a little bit more childish.
Do you think it makes him feel like inadequate because it didn't make him, he realized he wasn't as respected, or
yeah, I mean,
he's like much more advanced in his career than he is, so
yeah, I mean, he came into Bell Labs as like the father, you know, trying to like give his son something better, you know, like a gift of like, you know, I'm going to put in a good word, and then he finds out by the end of the scene that like, that he can't give that to his son anymore, because his son already has it, and has it like in spades, and that he as a father is like several notches now below his son. You know, that would instantly make him feel like like as a father, he doesn't have that anymore. I don't have that thing where I can kind of, you know, I can give to my son, you know. I think that there's something really like important that happens like in any parent's life when they sort of realize that their child doesn't need them anymore. And in this scene, like it's shown in the most obvious and the biggest way, which is like, you know, your son is like way above you.
And what Abe values is control. He is so self-controlled, and he just values control over everything. He, you know, not in an excessive way, but certainly over his family. And that was a complete loss of control. And the way that the scene was written, where they said, yeah, they said something like, you basically the level of the janitor in terms of your security clearance.
Oh no! And then
then
the guy said, actually, technically, the janitor has a higher one than you,
right?
Because they're allowed to shred documents.
And that's like that. I think that's another. You see that. I can't think of a specific instance, but that's all over the scripts of Gilmore Girls. Like that whole like kind of piling on and then going, yeah, it's even worse, you know, like that sort of list, and then that sort of little button at the end where yeah, you're actually lower than that. I think that oh no, I had a great what I thought was a great thing to say.
What was it about the like
control,
parents control?
Yeah, the dynamic, and also I can't believe it. I really had something. Well, anyway, that was my point, was that he values, you know, the whole control over everything. Oh, I know. It's like he values his intellect as all powerful, that he is the ultimate life of the mind guy. And he believes, look at the whole shuffleboard thing. Once his son was there, they were together calculating, well, because it leans to the left, you have to, they were trying to figure out the trajectory of the little disc that moves on this shuffleboard, or whatever you call it, that's so much a part of how he has fun, but also a part of how he controls things. Is if he can, his intellect he's always the smartest person in any room, and because of that, when it was particularly painful and gave him such pause when he learns this about his son and knows that he doesn't really have control over him, and doesn't, in the sense that he doesn't know him.
Well, go ahead, Steph.
Oh no, well, I was just gonna say, Diane made a point during the watch, and we were talking about it on Discord, about how it was interesting that he basically went straight to Rose to tell her about Noah, but has yet to tell her about Midge.
Nope.
Like he cares more about the Noah thing because it kind of like reflects badly on Abe. Possibly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's sort of how I felt. That's sort of what I was getting at with like the difference in how he feels about what they're doing.
And obviously he thinks Midge would reflect badly on him as well, but he wants to control that news.
Yeah, as
out on his term.
Yeah, like the fact that Midge is doing what she's doing, it doesn't take anything away from his authority over her. He still sees it as this thing that's below their family, below them, and it still keeps him in this place of power, and it still makes him sort of the father with the final say. Whereas what's going on with Noah like really does strip Abe of a lot of his power, a lot of his say as a father, and so it kind of makes him a little bit more like a child. And so it doesn't surprise me that that's like the first thing, so then he turns to, his confidant in this, or the person he feels like his confidant, who, also is a parent and would have, in his eyes, also lost all power in this situation, to sort of confide in her about what's going on. But when it comes to Midge, I think that he still feels like, no, I'm the father, I'm above you. I get to decide how this comes out, when this comes out. And, probably to some degree also sort of feels like I can judge you over what you're doing. And he can't really do that with Noah.
Just to kind of mention the relationship that we see unfold more so with Abe and Midge when they're out talking, outside on the deck or the porch outside of the dining area. It made me think about the scene in Dirty Dancing where we see Baby talking with her dad, Jerry Ortberg. I can't remember what his name is in the movie, but anyways, I was thinking about how there was almost this like intentional nod to Dirty Dancing because, for one thing, they're in the Catskills, and then he is basically showing how disappointed he is in Baby, and then we also see Abe's disappointment in Midge there too. And I think that Abe is realizing, just as a father, he sees his daughter in one light, but then sees her for who she really is in another, if that makes sense. It's almost like he's recognizing, like, oh, she's not exactly who I thought she was, just like he does with Noah too, but I think it cuts him to the core, obviously, that he's recognizing, oh, I really don't know my children as well as I thought I did. And that's a hard thing for him to accept.
And then I think it says something when he, when in the late last scene, I guess, when the comedian comes on stage and he asks Midge, "Are you as funny as him, or are you?" I can't remember the exact words, but
Yeah, Bill Foster.
it's yes. So he's like he's like, I think that shows a little bit of acceptance, at least, that he's now it's almost like, okay, well, this is my chance to get to know at least one of my kids, because I've got this world-shattering thing happening over with my son, and that whole dynamic that was happening at the table. And Rose leaned in, and I'm sorry, Noah leaned in, and he wanted to keep it between himself and Midge, but also he wanted to show maybe that he was reaching out in whatever way he could.
That's interesting, actually.
Up to the idea of her being a comedian. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love that. I think that there's something very interesting there, because he actually is not allowed. He has no ability at all to have any
Somebody's crying.
I know. I think she just woke up. Yeah, he actually is forbidden from having any relationship to his son's line of work, to have any insight or develop any bond with his son over what his son is doing. He's forbidden by an authority that is higher than all of them. So, but he does have the ability. He does have the ability to bond over his daughter over what she does.
Right.
And so it's very interesting that he may actually be seeing that right now at this point as an opportunity, rather than something that he shouldn't squander this, that he should actually open himself up to the possibility that, like, maybe this is the only chance that he'll have to get to know one of his children's sort of the thing that they do, their passion or whatnot.
I think in part too, I think maybe part of the reason why Abe went back to tell Rose what Noah was doing was also because Abe recognizes Rose's ability to get more information than he would be able to. I think that he knows that she would be able to convince the wife. I can't think of her name right now. Astrid, maybe. But convince her to give up some of the information that he was in search of.
Because he knows from experience how easy it is for Rose to get information like that.
Yeah. I will say, though, I had to laugh at the realness of when Susie got behind the wheel of the car, and she was very short, and Midge was teasing her about phone books and booster seats and things like that, so she could see over the wheel. Because growing up, my mom drove a Gran Torino, and my mom is very short. Well, everybody in our family is very short. But my mom is even shorter than I am, so she would use pillows, phone books, and things like that to prop herself up so that she could reach the pedals and see over the wheel. So I thought it was very funny, because it is real for many short people that to have to do things like that.
That is funny. And with the style of that car, I think that it was obvious that it was designed for a larger, taller person to drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I was just going to ask you all about as well is what did you think about the fact that, you know, there at the end where we see that she goes, well, this is kind of changing topic back to what we were talking about earlier, but there at the end, you know, the beautiful scene where they share that last dance of the summer together, and then she ends up going off to slow dance with Benjamin. I was just wondering, do y'all think that that could be some type of foreshadowing for, what could happen between Midge and Benjamin? Perhaps.
Well, I think that it is the end of the summer and they're, like I said before, they're all going back to the city, back to their old lives, but maybe it was a way to say there's a definite change here. And yeah, that this is what is going to happen to Midge and Joel, is that they will, not be together and will be. And so it's interesting that the way they showed it was Midge went to Benjamin, who, as somebody who she had an established relationship with, and Joel went to, yes, somebody who he'd had a conversation with, but was a little bit more of a new acquaintance. So I think maybe, if anything, it's a foreshadowing of like what type of choices they might make in the future.
Here's another question too. I was just thinking about the fact that didn't Midge kind of almost promise Abe that she wasn't going to go and do more comedy shows, but yet we see her run off with Susie and do this show almost like behind his back. And I don't know, I just thought that was kind of interesting how, it's almost like she's just itching so badly to get out there, and continue on with her work. And I don't know, it just makes me wonder if maybe, Abe is going to find out that she's still going out, and pursuing this before he has an opportunity to talk with the rest of the family about it. Or maybe he's accepting of it. I don't know, but
I think that where he saw her wearing that same outfit and the look that they shared when she was on her way out the door, he knows that's where she's going. And I think her promise to him was that she would lay low. She didn't specifically say she wouldn't do it anymore.
Just
but she said she would do it.
yeah.
I thought it was interesting that he was putting two together, which I think we discussed last time, that about her arrest and how he's linking it to her shows, and now he's wondering, what other trouble has she been in and stuff.
Right. I'm wondering if he's made the connection that there's any possibility that her doing comedy might have had anything to do with her being arrested, because I don't think he fully understands what's illegal in that area, like the stuff that, like, what could she have possibly done doing comedy that would get her arrested? So he might be thinking that this is just her, another aspect of her getting into stuff that she shouldn't be. Like maybe he thinks she's doing other things as well.
Yeah, that's what I agree.
Another thing that's interesting, though, is that both of his kids are participating in things in their own lives that like directly impact his dream job, so like that's got to be hard to take, is that at his dream job his kids' names keep coming up in lots of ways. And I don't know, I wonder what that feels like. You finally get to a point where you're being recognized for your work in a way that's like super incredible and powerful, and then outside of your control, like we were saying, your children's lives directly impact like how you're standing there too. And that's really I don't know, I just feel bad for him. He's worked pretty hard to get to this point, and it's kind of coming down around him in a way.
That and his security clearance is even lower than the janitor's.
Right.
Yeah. I just think that all of this is really, it's really transforming the Abe character in a great way. I foresee, like, my prediction now after this episode is that Abe starts to warm to the idea of Midge's comedy, and I could even see him like wanting to be a part of it. Like, not, I mean, like, wanting to get involved and finding out how she's doing, and
Yeah, I think that's possible because Abe kept asking about her manager, so he wanted to know about Susie and why she was carrying a plunger and all that sort of stuff. So it did show that he was at least a little bit interested or concerned even with how she was doing. And he was like, well, do you make money at it? Like, he was asking legitimate questions to try to find out more. So I think that shows that he's open to eventually accepting that this is the path she's chosen.
So it seems like she's getting a lot more gigs or, acts kind of lined up, and Susie's working on that for her. Do y'all foresee that she might even travel farther out or to some other places to perform? Or do you think that she'll, kind of stay more focused on the Gaslight and a few of the other places that are, in more like closer proximity?
Oh, I think that she's going to start branching out. I mean, I definitely think she's going to start getting bigger stuff, but I do feel, well, it does feel like the Catskills is probably come to an end. If I had to guess next episode is their return to New York City. There were a couple of hints in this episode that that's coming, just even the reference of Abe saying, we're not going to talk about this until after we've unpacked, so we're already getting in our minds the idea that there's some unpacking on the way. So this felt very much, and then, the way that it ended there with the dance, sort of this like kind of last dance quality to it. It feels like this mini arc dealing with the Catskills is probably finished with this episode, and that next episode, either begins with them already returning back to New York or arriving, or begins with everybody packing their things and leaving the Catskills. So the rest of the season, we've got 4 more episodes. Rest of the season, I'm going to guess is the rest of the season is going to be in New York City. And if I had to guess, we're going to see some bigger shows than the Gaslight in New York City. That's my prediction.
I will say too, though, that in the last episode, the guy that Susie meets that, starts to carry the wrench to kind of do what Susie does, hang around there and pretend to work there. I'm a little disappointed that he didn't make an appearance, and because, like, I assumed he'd be showing back up, because I don't understand now that he hasn't.
He was there. He was at that.
He was in the dance routine at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted something more, some sort of interaction between the two of them. Maybe like she finds out he's the one stealing her plunger, or I don't know, something. I just feel like because he was introduced and they made it seem like he was going to be like integral going forward with this time in the Catskills, and then it just sort of didn't go anywhere.
Well,
other
I
than
mean,
being
you know,
there.
we know that people from the Catskills are typically there from, or a lot of them are there from the city. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he is being established there in the Catskills, and we will get to know him more back in the city.
I hope so. I would hate to think that he was just like a throwaway character who didn't really go anywhere.
It doesn't strike me. He doesn't strike me as a go-away character, like just a throwaway character that was just there for a little bit of light comedy during their time there. He feels like something that they're setting up a little bit more. Although, you know, I can't imagine a character like that remaining for the rest of the series and constantly saying crisscross, crisscross.
Oh, yeah, I don't think he'll remain, but I want something a little bit more than what we've seen so far.
It also would be weird to just suddenly like make him a little bit bigger and then have to remove that crisscross, because I couldn't, you know, if they did make him bigger, I couldn't constantly hear him say that. And yet, if he didn't say that, it would also be weird, because it would be like, wow, you were saying that like crazy early on when your character was way smaller, and now your character's bigger and you rarely ever say it, you know? So that actually could be an argument for why he may actually just be some small little thing that they created for the Catskills. I'm gonna actually have to get running here because we have some folks coming over in about 15 minutes that we have to prep for. But thank you, Diane, for and Tiffany for hosting. This was a really great episode. I think this might be my favorite one so far.
You say that every time.
I see that every time.
I knew that's what you were going to say. But this is really the one. This is really.
I think that this is the one. I really do. I think that this is the one.
The next one.
But maybe the next one also. Actually, last one was pretty amazing. But I think this one's my favorite.
And that scene with Noah, I mean, that was
my favorite scene. That might be my favorite scene in the entire series so far. Also, it looks like Shauna has an event happening right now as well. So that's also probably a good time for us to wrap up.
Yes, she has the story about how the Maisels made Emily prim and proper, I think.
Ooh, sounds fun.
In the world.
So I will see all of you. We've got Buffy on Monday for those of you joining us for Buffy, and then we're back to the late 1950s with Midge and company on Tuesday to continue this story. We've got 4 more episodes of Maisel to go. Until we move into season 2. Then we're gonna season 3. Then we're gonna move into season 4, which is gonna be crazy because none of us will have seen that. So very exciting. All right, everyone. I will see you soon.